Alright, hey guys, welcome to another tutorial. Today we're actually going to do, I'm going to show you how I light some of the environments I use to demonstrate some of my Kismet videos. So I'm going to do two of them today. They're going to be two separate videos, but the first one's going to be this teleporter level. If you remember, you can put an object here, turn on this button, and then the object will teleport over here. But what we're going to go over is how I lit the level, all the lighting involved, and everything like that. So let's go ahead. Let me open up the level where there is no lighting. So here's a level unlit. When we have lighting, so you can't see anything just because there's no lighting or anything like that. So the first thing we're going to do is we're going to need our dominant directional light for our sun. And the dominant directional light in UDK actually what makes the sky dome come to life. So in order to bring a light into the level overall, the easiest way is just to hold down the L key and left click, and it automatically comes in as a point light. And then what we want to do with the point light, we're going to right click on it, convert light, goes directional lights, then dominant directional light. And then the way I have it, or the way I like to have my lighting, is have it at an angle. Let's actually increase the draw scale of this light. So if we go down here at the scaling, it should make the actual actor bigger, I believe, or not. You have to do the overall scale. Here we go. There you go. You gotta do overall scale. I made it 10. It's kind of big. Let's actually make that smaller. We just make it big just so we can find it. Let's make those all 1 again. And the kind of lighting I like, well, for this scene in particular, is an orange light. But first, let's make the angle of the light. So if you watch this sun right here, it'll actually move. See, it's right there. We can move it. Because that's what the dominant directional light does. That's how the material setup is for the sky. So we're going to set it up so it comes to this window. So we got that going, which is nice. So let's just rotate it a little more in and down. Yeah, something along that line, something that looks cool like that. And then with this light selected, go ahead and let's hit F4, and we'll get its properties here. So the first thing we want to do here, just because it's the sun, we want to make it pretty bright. So instead of it being at 1, we're going to make that about 8. And then for the light color, obviously we want it to be like an afternoon, kind of like an orangey color. So we'll get the color picker here, and we'll just go somewhere in the orange area. On that. And then we'll just bring that contrast down a bit. Perfect. The next thing we want to do here, we want to go ahead and we want to just change some of the settings for the light shafts, just because the sun has those light shafts and everything like that. So in order to do that, we need to go under light shafts in the properties here. Obviously, having light shafts, it's a simple thing as a toggle. So if we make it true, we got light shafts now. And then if you turn it off, you don't have light shafts anymore. But light shafts are always cool looking. I'm going to go ahead and increase the bloom scale just so it looks a lot brighter there. And then for the bloom tint, we don't want to make it white. We want to make it a little less of an orange color just so it fits the color of the light itself, which is really nice. And that's really about it for this dominant light. There's not much that you need to do. Not a lot of these settings are really necessary at all. So we're going to go ahead and just finish that out. And right now it doesn't look like much. That's because we didn't build any lighting. Just before we build any lighting, one of the more important volumes you need to have here in order for there to be light mass and there to be any light bouncing and anything like that, you need to have a light mass importance volume. If you don't know how to get it out, if you hit Control P on any volume, it gives you the volume with the builder brush. So with the builder brush around the level or the environment you want to have light mass, you go into volumes and then you do light mass importance volume. And then when you go to view world properties, there is a setting called light mask. From there, you can give it an environment color. So the environment color, we want it to be like an orange. And then with that, we're going to keep the rest of these settings almost the same here. With light mask settings, though, with static lighting and number of indirect lighting bounces. So these are the amount of times when you do a light mask build, how many times the light bounces off of surfaces. So if you do a lot, they're going to do a lot of bouncing. If you do 1, it's only going to do 1 bounce. If you do 0, it's not going to bounce at all. And things like that. But we're going to leave everything how it is. We're going to go ahead and build lighting real quick. And we're going to see where this leads us. Honestly, just having a dominant directional light, it'll do a lot of bouncing in the environment, but it may not be dark enough or light enough for us to really see anything. So we're just going to let it build, and we're most likely going to need a fill light. If you looked at the level before, there's one fill light and then a couple brighter lights near the teleporter lights. We're going to add those in as well. Once this lighting build's done, we're going to take a look at where this brings us, essentially. So we're just going to give it a few minutes here. It's just going to take a little bit just because of all the meshes that are in the level. But just to keep in mind, dominant directional lights, they're always dynamic lights. That's why you'll be able to, make them move. You can turn them on and off. They're always going to be dynamic. They're always going to affect characters. You can turn that off in their properties, but by default, it's going to do that. So just keep that in mind as well. And then after we get this build done, we're going to definitely see where we're at. Because with the amount of light bounces we have, it should fill up the room. But we may need to make an adjustment with just another fill light to make sure everything's bright enough. And possibly simulate a little more light bouncing for us. But we're going to give this a few moments here. It's going to be maybe 30 more seconds. So we're just going to wait here. So while we're waiting, if you like what this video is about, if you want more detail about these lights, if you want me to actually make a strict tutorial about each kind of light, let me know and I'll do it. I've just been more focusing on Kismet and stuff like that just because it's more advanced stuff, but honestly lighting can be more advanced as well, so we'll definitely take a look at that if you guys are interested. So let's see where we're at. So right now, you see a little bit of light bouncing over here, a little bit over here, but overall it's still very, very dark. So what we're going to do, we're going to get another light in here. So holding down the L key, bring that up. And we're just going to change the size just about to 1200, just so you can see how it kind of encompasses the whole room here. But what we're going to do now, we're going to actually make the light color the same kind of color as the sun. But we're going to dim it down just a tad bit. And then for fill lights, you don't want to make them overly bright. So we're going to just bring this down from 1 to about 0.5. And then with this as well, we don't want this fill light to really cast any shadows, just because for all intents and purposes there's only 3 kinds of lights. The ones coming from these emitters, so that's 2, and then our sunlight. So we don't want this fill light to cast any shadows, so we're just going to go ahead and uncheck the cast shadows, cast stack shadows, and everything like that. And then with that, that's actually about it for this fill light. So before even a lighting build, we can see it looks a lot better. It makes a lot more sense for it to look this way. But the last few lights we're going to make, they're going to be identical. So we're only going to really need to make one more light. Let's give it a light that's going to be focusing right here. So what we're going to do, we're going to do L and then left click. So there's our point light. And these are really small light sources. So we definitely want to change the radius to about 256. And then what else we're going to do here, because these objects here are dynamic, they're interactors, we want to go ahead and make these lights dynamic just so they cast dynamic shadows. So to do that, let's right click on it, convert light, let's do point light, and then point light movable. So this will allow it to be dynamic and cast dynamic shadows properly. So going back into the properties here, let's change the brightness here because these light sources are pretty bright. We'll just change it to 2, and then we'll change the light color to a light yellow, something along that line, something that makes sense. And then with that, that's really about it for that kind of light. So we're just going to move that into position here. Then we're just going to copy and paste it here. All I did was Alt, Shift, and then dragged with my left mouse button. And that copies a duplicate. So we got that going, which is really sweet. So these are the only lights in the level, essentially. There's nothing more than just that. All we need to do at this point is just build a lighting one last time to see where we get. So let's go ahead and build it one more time. And then from there, that's really all you have to do to light scenes. It's not too crazy, just depending on what your scene is. Whenever I try to make like an interesting environment, I always try to at least involve some form of dynamic light. In terms of the sun, like having a sun-dominant directional light there always allows it to make it look really nice. And then from there, you just use fill lights, like these point lights, to simulate better just the bouncing of light, just to make sure everything's got color and everything like that. It's pretty simple, pretty straightforward. I know there's a lot of more advanced topics with lighting that I'll be more than happy to go over, but I like to focus really on Kismet. But honestly, lighting's really important too. So if there's enough interest in these videos, I'll definitely do more. So we'll see where we're at with this lighting build. We should be done as soon as this goes through. And I'll explain a little bit more about some of the shadows that we see as well in this scene, just to play it safe so you guys know about it. So we're about halfway done. Okay. And if any of you guys have any questions about lighting, definitely leave them in the comments. If you have any cool environments you want to show me at all, yeah, definitely link it in the comment section. I'll definitely want to check it out. Or you can just message me directly. It's all good on that. So hopefully you guys learned a lot. Let's see what this comes out to. We're almost done. And there we go. Looks pretty good to me. It's a little different than how we started just because of the direction of the light that we put, but you know, overall it looks almost identical, which is pretty sweet. One thing I will explain here, if you look at these shadows here, you can actually see the shadows of these bars. That's because these bars are dynamic. If these were static meshes, you wouldn't see these kind of shadows. So let me go ahead and let's select them. Let's hit F4, and actually they are static meshes. That's interesting. I thought they were dynamic. I think it's just because the sun itself is a dynamic light. Actually, yeah, that's it. So whenever you have a dynamic sunlight like that, they'll cast dynamic shadows and static shadows that'll have this amount of detail in them. So apologize for that confusion, but let's go ahead and just play this level just to make sure it's still working. How do I get a... There we go. And there we go. Now let's start the process. And as you can see, because we have a dynamic light, you see those shadows. And there we go. Alright, there we go. And that's how I basically lit the scene. There wasn't anything too complicated going on there. So I hope you guys definitely learned a lot. At least something to start out with, just to give you an idea how, I guess, my thought process is with lighting. I'm going to do a second one of these with more lights and how they, you know, there's nothing more than that. But I'm going to do another video just to keep it up. So definitely like the video if you enjoyed what you saw. Subscribe if you haven't for more of these videos, and share it if you want to just share this information with other people. So I'll see you guys next time. Thanks for watching. Bye.